Hi everybody, welcome to Literature, Lesson 1, Quiz 1, Explanation. If you've not finished the first quiz for Lesson 1, please stop the recording now. Make sure you finish the quiz on Moodle before you watch this video. This video will try to help you to answer the questions by showing you where the answers would come from in each passage, as well as explaining which answers are right and wrong. So question 1. The main idea of this excerpt chiefly concerns which of the following? The main idea is which of the following? The family traditions of the author's culture, the way words united the author's family, the effort the author put into learning English, the author's preference of Spanish, or the reason the author's family created words. So we've got a few answers here that are talking about words or language. But the first one is talking generally about culture or traditions. So as we look at the passage, we need to think, is it about language or is it about culture and traditions? We need to think about, is it about learning a language or is it about the family use of the language? We might get a clue by looking at the title. The title is about the family communicating. So probably not going to be about learning a language or preferring a language. So 3 and 4 are probably going to be taken away. Let's look at the passage. I was extremely happy child at home. I remember many nights when my father would come back from work and I'd hear him call out to my mother in Spanish, sounding relieved. In Spanish, he'd sound light and free notes he could never manage in English. So we're talking about the language, the choice of using Spanish language instead of English language, and connected to the mother and father. With mis hermanos, my brothers and sisters, I would come running into the room where he was with my mother. Our laughing so deep was the pleasure. So we got pleasure, we got emotion. We came streaming. Like others who know the pain of public alienation, we transformed knowledge of our public separateness and made it consoling, the reminder of intimacy. Excited, we joined our voices, again language. And we were speaking now the way we could never speak in public. We were alone. So as we see this, we see about Spanish language and we see about family. So it's not generally about the culture, so we can take away number 1. And it's not about learning or preferring, so we take away 3 and 4. So now we need to look very carefully for the last 2 answers. Is it about the way words unite the family, or is it the reason that the author's family created words? Well, it does say, at dinner we invented new words. Our Spanish but made sense only to us. We pieced together new words by taking, say, an English verb and giving it Spanish endings. Okay, here it does talk about creating new language. But this is not going to be the main idea. This is going to be a detail to show how language could unite the family. The correct answer is going to be number 2. Question 2. Which of the following best describes the tone of the excerpt? So celebratory would be positive, detached would be negative. Detached means that you're not connected, that it's something else, it's not to do with you. Fanciful is like imagination, maybe talking about fairies or giants, things like that. Regretful is negative. Regretful is you are sorry that something didn't happen. Or urgent means to need to do very quickly. Well, let's look at some of the words here. I was extremely happy as a child. My father sounded relieved and light and free. Our laughing, we had deep pleasure. Okay, we were excited. So as we look through the passage, we see lots of these positive words, which shows you that you should be looking for a positive word, a positive tone. The correct answer is going to be celebratory. 3. What does the author reveal about his attitude towards Spanish with the statement, tongues explored the edges of words, especially the fat vowels? Line 31-32. So, or a word like sí. would become, in several notes, able to convey added measures of feeling. So the way that they speak can give you extra information about how they feel. Tongues explored the edges of the words, especially the fat vowels, and we happily sounded that military drum roll, the twirling roar of the Spanish R. So, we talk about the word they speak and the emotions that's linked together. So, I would say immediately, I'd be looking at answer number 4 or 3. But I'd be wrong. I'd be thinking it relates to the meaning, and that kind of is here. It adds measures of feeling. But the meaning and the feeling might not be the same. That's why answer number 4 is wrong. Constantly evolving, constantly changing is not correct. This is talking about how they use language. It's not talking about how language changes over time. And it's not saying it's difficult to speak it well. They are Spanish and they speak Spanish like Spanish people, really putting emphasis on certain letters, certain vowel sounds. So is it too often exaggerated? Too often means too much, over exaggerated. Or are there close ties to the sense of touch? See, for me, I would have chosen answer number 4, but the correct answer is 3. By talking about the edge of a word, the edge of the sound, it's like you can touch it, like you can touch the edge of the table right now. It's trying to make a link between touching it, making it feel like you can touch the words. That's why answer number 5 is correct, according to the book. Number 4. Later in the book, the author states that it is not possible for a child, any child, to use his family's language in school. What does he mean by the family language? Well, think, he's been talking about at dinner we invented new words. They were Spanish, they sounded Spanish, but they were English verbs with Spanish endings. So the family language is language that's known only to them. They are piecing together words. They are taking some bits of Spanish and some bits of English, so other people would not know that language. It's not about the past, and it's not about what you first learn. He's not a child here. He's not a young child. This is talking about growing up in the family. And we're talking about a family, not a minority of the population. So we can also remove answer number 5. So now we have to look very carefully at 3 and 4. Is there private emotion, or is there an ignoring of the rule of grammar? Well, they do ignore the rules of grammar because they add words together. But there would be urgent tones. There would be added feeling. People at school would not know what the feeling was supposed to be because they don't know the mother. They don't know how the mother speaks. So the people at school wouldn't understand these extra meanings or these extra feelings. So we can take away answer number 4 and choose answer number 3. It's showing private emotion that only people in the family would understand. Now, next passage. I think we've seen this before. What's so special about news magazines? Sorry, the picture's not so good on this one. Which of the following is the best restatement of the phrase, not because journalism is perfect, but because it isn't? Now, you're saying journalism is not perfect. It doesn't say they try to be perfect. It says it is not perfect. So we can take away answer number 3. Most journalists do not care about editorial quality. Attention to editorial quality may help to improve earnings. Attention to editorial quality may help improve journalism. Or good journalists pay attention to how many people buy magazines. So are we looking about how many people buy the magazine? Or are we looking about improving the earnings, improving the money? Let's have a look. Let's look at line 1, 2. Behind the bottom line, Wall Street doesn't care much about editorial quality. Beyond the bottom line, they only care about the money. Wall Street doesn't care about the editorial quality. Journalists do, and others should. Journalists care about the quality. Other people should care about the quality. So this kind of suggests that people should care about quality because journalism is not perfect. If it's not perfect, you should be trying to improve it, trying to make it better. If you care about the quality, you can improve it. So answer number 4 is correct. Question 6. What is the main idea of the second paragraph of the excerpt, lines 6 to 22? So news magazines come at the end of the food chain of journalism. First, radio reports the news hourly. Then the evening television news repeats it and adds pictures. Newspapers fill out the story in greater detail. Finally, the news magazine comes along to summarize and analyze it. So it's talking about the process of reporting the news, from the radio to the TV to the newspaper, finally the newspaper magazine. By that time, the reader may be suffering an acute case of information glut. Too much information. It takes wit, humor, reflection, a gift for compression, summarizing, some fresh reporting or consultation with experts, and an original turn of mind to add something new. So it's difficult to make it interesting. It's difficult to make it new. The real job of the news magazine is to help the reader to make sense out of his times. Those who can do this, the best of them form a shaggy group of contentious minds. So the news magazine helps people to make sense of what is happening around them. So let's have a look at the possible answers. It takes hard work to make a good news magazine. Well, that doesn't include anything about the news magazine being at the end of a line, the end of a process. So we can take away number 1 because it doesn't include any of this. Other media report stories before the magazines do. Well, this talks about the other media, but this section talks about the effort, the skill that's necessary to make a good news magazine. So number 2 also misses off a large section of the paragraph. Number 3. News magazines are a collection of news reports. Well, it's a definition, but it's not telling you that it's the end. It's not telling you about the skill. So number 3 does not summarize the paragraph. Number 4. News magazines often contain opposing points of view. This is just not there. Nowhere does it say that there are different points of view. News magazines summarize and analyze the news. Yes. Finally, the news magazine comes along to summarize and analyze it. How does it analyze it? By adding extra information, by talking to experts, by finding new angles. This is all part of the analysis. Question 7. Why is the statement suffering an acute case of information glut an effective use of figurative language? Well, gluttony means eating too much. So if you are a glutton, you are very greedy. You always eat a lot of food. So an information glut means too much information. It reminds you of having stomach ache because you ate too much. The correct answer is going to be number 3. This last question is quite easy. What organization pattern does the author use in lines 6 to 12? Well, we have first, the radio reports the news every hour. Then the evening, television has news. And the next day, there are newspapers. Finally, there's the news magazine. So from the hour to the evening to the next day to finally, so we have time order. We're not putting similar things together. It's not similarity and differences. It's not cause and effect. And it's not from most important to least important. The key is those time words. Hourly, evening, next day. So you can see that we're talking about time order.